Hey guys, in this video, we are going to talk about the top 10 distribution ERP systems in 2025. So let's dive in.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our number one priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
My name is Sam Gupta. I am principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent vendor agnostic digital transformation consulting analyst and advisory firm. On that note, let's go back to today's topic, which is going to be top 10 distribution ERP systems in 2025. Just to compile this research as well as report that is going to be included with this video, if you want to dig deeper into the variables that we generally use for to compile these ranking quadrants, as well as what this is going to mean for the distribution segment, as well as the ERP systems that are going to be relevant for this particular market segment. So just to touch on some of the variables that we are going to discuss as we go through each of the systems that we have on this list. So number one variable in this particular market segment is going to be that this list is for the products and not necessarily for the vendors. And sometimes that is always the confusing part in the ERP community. When you look at sometimes the systems get confused as the vendors get confused as the systems. So just a note that this is only for the products. This would combine companies of all sizes as well as the industries. So any of the industries that are going to have the distribution-centric business model, we include all of them as part of this list. And that's why when you are selecting the system for your own unique business model, even though all of these companies might be in the same distribution sector, their needs could vary, and that's why you need to read between the lines, listen to my commentary very carefully. The size segment is also very important, and in this particular case, we are going to include all of them, whether you are a startup, small, mid, or large. All of them are included, but each of the system is going to be positioned for very specific micro segment. They win or they have proven success in those micro segments. So pay attention to the commentary there as well. Now, some of the systems are going to have the manufacturing plus distribution plus e-commerce. Sometimes in distribution, you might have flavors of construction, field services. So all of those variables you need to keep in mind as well. So some systems may be pure play distribution. They might not be as strong with manufacturing centric business processes. Some are designed for slightly more scalable business model. So again, I'll be touching on all of those layers. Another variable to keep in mind is industrial versus the FMCG segmentation. The industrial verticals will require very specialized integration. Their product, the business processes are very unique as well. For FMCG, they are going to be much deeper with the supply chain processes. Their products are not going to be as complex. Their customer structure might not be as complex either. So again, these products are going to be completely different. The products that are positioned for slightly more industrial verticals, they might not be as great fit for FMCG. And the products that do well in the FMCG verticals, they might not be as fit for the industrial verticals. The other segmentation that you are going to see is physical location versus no physical location. And a lot of these distribution companies are going to have some sort of physical layout. Now, some people might bundle that inside the retail vertical, but even within the distribution business model, you are going to have a lot of companies that are going to have physical location. For them, the processes, the needs are going to be different. Sometimes these companies keep all of these business processes separate, meaning the retail is going to be separate from your wholesale, but sometimes that might not be possible, especially if you have return centric processes. And then some, let's say if your customers are buying from your wholesale warehouse, or let's say from e-commerce, but they are returning at the store, then you might run into issues there. So that's why looking at the location based functionality is going to be equally critical as well from the ERP perspective. Now, in-house fleets versus no in-house fleets is going to be another variable. Some industries, for example, let's say if you go into auto parts distributors, sometimes they are going to have, or electrical or HVAC, all of these verticals are going to have some sort of in-house fleets. Now, some ERP systems may be able to accommodate all of that, but then other ERP systems would rely on external CMS or WMS systems to be able to manage this depending upon how the architecture is. So again, that is going to be another layer that you need to keep in mind when we discuss this. To compile this list, we are looking at different variables such as your product share, acquisition strategy, focused on distribution, ERP. If the companies are acquiring several capabilities focused on distribution, then they generally rank higher on this list. Product roadmap, community, ecosystem, win rate, technology strategy, as well as investors. So these are some of the variables that we have utilized to compile this list. So now let's look at the list. Number 10 on our list is SAP Business by Design. And last year, I think at this spot, we had SAP Business One. So we have made some changes. Overall, SAP Business One is a great product. SAP Business by Design is also a great product. The difference in the strategy for SAP Business by Design is that SAP Business by Design is far more mature on cloud. Generally, within SAP itself, you are not going to find as many champions that are willing to back SAP Business by Design. In general, SAP Business One community is far more penetrated. But overall, if you look at the product, the SAP Business One Cloud is just not as mature. So you are going to rely on a lot more on-prem capabilities. And in general, as we are in 2025 right now, the on-prem capabilities are going to retire in general. The AI capabilities are not going to be there on-prem install base. So the customers are going to be incentivized to go for the newer code bases, and that's why now the cloud nativeness is going to matter a little bit more. So that's why we are slightly more bullish about SAP Business by Design for this year for the distribution market segment. Some of the strengths to keep in mind with SAP Business by Design is that they have the global financial capabilities. So even if you are going to be a small company, and in general, SAP Business by Design product is targets the mid-market segment. And even if you are going to be a mid-market company, sometimes these companies are operating in multiple countries, especially if these companies are from Europe or South America. In those countries, you generally do business in multiple countries just because one country is not going to have as much customer base. So you end up doing business in three, four, five, sometimes 10. And when you are going to require that, you would require the financial capabilities across the board. And that's where your SAP Business by Design is going to be a slightly superior product. Now, natively, it does have the mixed mode manufacturing as well as the product models. So, mixed mode manufacturing is going to be relevant for distributors who are also manufacturing to some extent. For that, that's going to be really beneficial. And then the product master or the model is really complex, designed to handle many different business processes that some of the other products on this list might struggle with. The other strength to keep in mind is the performance of HANA. That's a big plus in all of the SAP products utilize HANA as the database. Now, for the smaller companies, sometimes that could be a drawback because the conversion is going to be a heavier lift from the SQL. That is going to be a little bit of challenge from the skill set perspective as well. So that is something to keep in mind. But then if you have products that, let's say, if they are going to be serialized, in those cases, the performance of HANA might be better just because these processes require a lot more processing capabilities, and that's where HANA excels. If you have very simplified product model, etc., and you don't necessarily have the volume, then HANA may not be as much of a benefit for you. But if you are a very volume business and then your product is very complex as well in terms of the transactions, then you might want to go for HANA centric capabilities. Some limitations to keep in mind is the suite capabilities that you have are going to be available through third parties. For example, in the distribution segment, you are looking at configurator. That is probably going to be one of the needs that most companies are going to require, at least the ones that are going to be on the configurator business model. Now, you have some of the other suite capabilities that might be bundled as part of the other products on this list. For example, WMS, TMS, and these are going to be some of the basic needs smaller companies might not be able to afford the integration. So again, that's going to be a challenge with business by design. And then the business by design product does not have just any WMS processes built as part of the product. So you are definitely relying on an add-on provided by a third party. Sometimes there could be challenges in aligning the pricing, licensing. You are definitely paying to the extra vendor, so you have the vendor risk as well. So those are some of the things to keep in mind, and this is not going to be suitable for process distributors, and that is one layer that we have not touched so far. So if you are going to be in slightly more process manufacturing distribution space, your products are going to be slightly more process manufacturing centric. If that is the case, then this might not be the best fit because the product is not as good at the process centric product models, even though it is going to support the product attributes, etc. But again, it is not necessarily designed for the process manufacturing bombs as well as the product master. So those are some of the limitations, and that's number 10. Now, number 9 on our list is Oracle Cloud ERP. An Oracle Cloud ERP is going to be ideal fit for slightly more larger global companies that care for the financial consolidation of all of those entities rather than caring for the operational processes. For operational processes, they might require several add-ons. Generally, this is relevant for companies where they are going to have many different business models. And if those business models cannot be accommodated as part of one ERP, or if your teams are not willing to come on one ERP, then you are going to utilize this for more of the financial consolidation piece. And then you might utilize some of the other ERP systems in slightly more two-tier settings, or you are going to utilize some sort of add-ons in conjunction with the financial core financial layer. So in those cases, Oracle Cloud ERP is going to be a great fit. Some strengths to keep in mind is WMS and TMS capabilities are bundled with the ERP. And then proven solution with the large workloads. And the ecosystem is very heavily penetrated as well. So those are some of these strengths. Some limitations to keep in mind is the last mile capabilities, the industry specific capabilities that you are looking for may not be as natively built with Oracle Cloud ERP will require a lot more configuration consulting to be able to enable those capabilities. Just because the product is large, it is trying to accommodate many different business transactions, many different business models, and it's going to rely on many different add-ons. And this is probably going to be overwhelming for SMB distributors just because it's a large product, enterprise grade product. So those are some of the limitations to keep in mind. And that's number 9. Number 8 on our list is SysPro. And SysPro is ideal for smaller distribution companies, and this could be process or discrete, just because the product model is designed for both the products, whether you are going to be in the process manufacturing space or discrete manufacturing space. So some of these strengths to keep in mind from the SysPro perspective is that it has very rich distribution functionality from the ERP perspective, just the way SAP products are designed. SysPro product model as well as the ERP model is very SAP like, but along with those capabilities, you are also going to get richer last mile capabilities, operational capabilities with SysPro that you are not going to get with products such as your SAP Business by Design or SAP Business One. The other advantage with SysPro is that it is available in cloud now, and they have SQL-based database as well, and they are going to have native capabilities to support food and beverage distributors as well. They have a lot more native capabilities for that. Some of the other products may require add-on for these capabilities, so that's a huge plus for SysPro. Now, limitations to keep in mind is the ecosystem, even though compared to some of the other prescriptive systems, the SysPro ecosystem is far more penetrated. They have a lot more resellers as well as VARs, but it's not going to be as prevalent as NetSuite. Let's say NetSuite or Acumatica, for example. Let's say if you're looking for many different add-ons, they have very good ecosystem, but again, comparably speaking, they are not going to be as big in terms of their ecosystem as NetSuite or Acumatica. Now, the last mile capabilities might be limited as well compared to some of the other prescriptive ERP systems. For example, let's say if you compare this with Infor SXE or Epicor Eclipse or Epicor Profit 21, they are going to bundle a lot more capabilities as part of the suite that you might not be able to find with SysPro. The integrations are going to be limited as well. So those are some of the limitations, and that's number 8. Number 7 on our list is Acumatica. Acumatica is ideal for smaller distribution companies that are going to have slightly more complex business model, especially limited to fewer countries such as your US. They are present in some other countries as well. But for the most part, this is a very North American solution. It might not be as great fit for other geographies. For example, let's say if you go to Europe or South America, they might not have as much presence. They might not be as well localized in those ecosystems. So that is the layer that you need to keep in mind. Now, some of the strengths to keep in mind from the Acumatica's perspective is that the way the product is designed, it can accommodate a lot more business models, transactions. So that's a huge plus for Acumatica. You are not going to require a separate product. These are not different databases that are bundled as part of the suite. It is one product, and it can accommodate many different additions as part of the same product. So if you are going to have a business, for example, let's say you are distributor, but then you also have the manufacturing flavors, you have construction flavors, you have a little bit of professional services, you also have a little bit of field service. If you have all of those challenges, in those cases, Acumatica works really well. The other advantage of Acumatica is also going to be for slightly more seasonal businesses. And if you are going to be in the construction space, or maybe you are in the school supply space, in those cases, your business is going to be very seasonal. You are going to have peaks in your demand, and then you are going to hire capacity during your seasonal spikes. And if you do that, generally what you have to do with the other ERP systems is that you have to buy users, but then you have to lock up the period for those users as well. So even though you might have some workarounds there as well with those ERP systems, but with Acumatica, you are going to have consumption based pricing. So that helps because here you are not necessarily paying by the user. But consumption based pricing also has a drawback. So the drawback is going to be, for example, let's say if you are a very transactional business, sometimes the consumption-based pricing could be all over the place. And when you do the quote, then sometimes, we have seen that a business is going to be $50 million, a construction business, a retail business, and the pricing could be very, 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 very different for both of these businesses. So sometimes it's very hard to understand why the pricing is so different for these businesses, even though the businesses are going to be of the same size, just because they are going to buy the tiers and the number of transactions, volume. In some cases, it works great. In other cases, it might not work as great. So you need to keep that in mind when you are reviewing Acumatica. You might also have a lot more surprises. So let's say if you did not understand consumption-based pricing, and tomorrow, let's say if they are going to upgrade to a different tier. Now, in general, the Acumatica's tiers are not as they are slightly more normalized. So you are not going to experience as much price shock as you would experience with some of the other ERP systems. But still, you still need to understand all of those tiers and how that is going to impact your licensing and pricing. If you don't understand that, you might get surprise bills later on, even if you get discount or if you feel that you are getting discount upfront. So keep that in mind. Now, you have the diverse business process in the same product, and that is the point that we have already discussed. Some of the limitations to keep in mind is they have limited global capabilities overall as part of the product. The way the product is designed for slightly smaller businesses. So for global workload, especially if you are looking for global financial as well as the operational synergies across your entities, in those cases, Acumatica will struggle, may not be the best fit, at least as of today. It is not necessarily fit for large distributors, and the primary reason being is that they are not going to have all of those layers that the large distributors are going to need. And one of that is going to be the whole financial operational synergies that they are going to require across entities. They have ecosystem, and their ecosystem is one of the most prevalent. But again, in the NetSuite ecosystem, Microsoft ecosystem, you are going to find a lot more options. But even Acumatica has many different options. It's just that they all are going to be aligned to specific industries where they do really well. So you are going to find a lot more options for those industries. And that's where you need to do a lot more due diligence in which industries they do really well. And that's where you'll be finding a lot more options in their ecosystem as well. So that's going to be a little bit of limitation for Acumatica as well. And that's number 7. Number 6 on our list is Infor Cloud Suite Distribution SXE product. And this is ideal for industrial distributors looking for fully integrated suite. And as part of the suite, you are going to find a lot more. In general, in the industrial distribution space, you have different customer master need, different product set. The data is going to be very different. The integrations are going to be very different. And that's where Infor Cloud Suite distribution really shines. So when you look at, for example, let's say if you look at B2B commerce platforms, they are far more integrated with Infor Cloud Suite distribution as compared to some of the other systems, such as, let's say, if you go to Syspro, Acumatica, or NetSuite, they might not be as well penetrated in those spaces just because they don't have as much market share. And in general, the way these companies are going to plan their R&D, integration, etc., it's always prioritized based on where they have the most amount of success. So Info Cloud Suite distribution is far more successful in those industrial spaces, industrial distributor spaces, and you are going to find much deeper capabilities. For example, let's say if you look at buying groups, you are not going to find capabilities related to buying groups in other products. You will require a lot more workarounds in general. When you are going to have all of those credit arrangements that you have to do, and depending upon how complex your processes are from the buying group perspective, they get really complex in general. So that's where your Infor Cloud Suite distribution is probably going to be a better fit. And then with Infor, the other plus that you have is also the Infor OS, which is already bundled as part of the Infor Cloud Suite distribution. So you don't have to pay separate for your iPaaS, as well as several other capabilities that are going to be bundled as part of Infor OS. That's a huge plus. But again, Infor OS is going to have some of the limitations as well. So it's not that the other systems are necessarily bad. It's just that you need to decide what is going to be better for you. The limitations to keep in mind from Infor Cloud Suite perspective is when you are going to have the diverse business processes, even from the distribution perspective. For example, let's say if you are discrete centric distributor, but then you may have a little bit of process centric distribution. And depending upon how your business model is structured, sometimes that's a possibility. So if you have that, you might outgrow Infor CSD fast. Now, the other limitations that you have is the data structure is not as strong compared to some of the other ERP systems. And that's where you will need to find a lot more workarounds in general, the way you are going to accommodate your operational processes. So that's going to be another drawback that we generally hear from the customers. And then the limited pre-baked integration for diverse businesses. So when you look at these diversified businesses, for them, the pre-baked integrations are not going to be as much. For example, let's say if you are a very channel-centric business, but then you are also very industrial distribution-centric business, if the channel-centric businesses are going to require integration with, let's say, Amazon, eBay, etc., but your industrial distribution businesses, they might require integration with your maybe configurator, maybe a lot of different e-commerce platforms, maybe with different buying groups, etc. So these are going to be very different needs. So they might not have pre-baked integration for all of that, even though they are going to have a lot more capabilities, last mile capabilities from the industrial perspective. So those are some of the things to keep in mind, and that's number 6. Number 5 on our list is Epicor Profit 21. And Epicor Profit 21 is a very comparable product as your Infor CSD. Infor CSD is going to be slightly more global in its footprint, the way the product is designed. It's proven in slightly larger install base. Epicor Profit 21 is going to have a little bit of smaller logos compared to Infor CSD. Now, Epicor Profit 21 is going to be very well penetrated in the SMB space. It's very well known product, and that's why it is going to be very well integrated in among the ecosystems as well. For example, let's say if you look at any of the industrial e-commerce players, they all are going to be integrated with Epicor Profit 21 in some shape or form. So the strengths that you have is the whole industrial ERP distribution systems capabilities, just like your Infor CSD product. And the prescriptive architecture is probably the best. So if you buy everything that Epicor Profit 21 is offering, then it could be a great fit. But let's say if you have to manage a lot of integrations, for example, let's say you have Amazon integration, eBay integration, channel-centric business, if you have all of that, then they might not be the best fit, because other companies are going to have, or other products are going to have the pre-baked integration. So here your implementation budget is going to be much higher, just because you need to manage these integration by yourself, or you need to hire a consulting company. So this is going to be also pre-integrated with best-of-breed industrial B2B systems, and that is going to be a huge strength for Epicor Profit 21. The limitations that you're looking at from Epicor Profit 21 perspective is limited capabilities to support diverse distributors, legacy technology, as well as ecosystem. So that's number 5. Number 4 on our list is Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. In Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central, it is designed for very global distributors that are going to be in the SMB space. So the operational capabilities are going to be limited in the product, but the product is going to be very comparable to your SAP Business by Design or maybe NetSuite is probably the right comparison for this particular product. MS Dynamics 365 Business Central does really well in with the distributors that are going to be slightly more FMCG, FNB. That's where you're going to find a lot more presence of Business Central. You might not find as much presence in the industrial spaces. It's still going to be there, but it's not as penetrated as some of the other products on this list. The strengths to keep in mind is that it has rich distribution ERP system capabilities, and those capabilities are going to be very comparable to your Syspro or your SAP Business by Design. NetSuite is going to have those capabilities as well, and then it's also very cloud native architecture, so that's a huge plus for the BC product. And then global capabilities as well as the ecosystem. So those are some of these strengths. Now the limitations to keep in mind is limited capabilities to support diverse distributors, and the add-ons may be unproven. In general, the way Microsoft ecosystem is structured, it has a lot of resellers, ISVs, VARs. So sometimes navigating that could be a challenge. It's not that the Microsoft product or Microsoft is a problem. In this case, the VARs or ISVs are going to be a problem. So it's just that you need to do a lot more due diligence in understanding who are these companies and how installed their products are, to be able to understand whether the code base that they might be selling might be as proven as the Microsoft products. And some of the limitations are going to be from the ecosystem perspective as well. While ecosystem is very well penetrated, but you are not going to find as many options. For example, let's say if you are in the industrial distribution space, then your Epicor or Infor, they are going to have a lot more presence in those spaces than your Microsoft Dynamics Business Central. So those are some of the things you need to keep in mind, and that's number 4. Number 3 on our list is Microsoft Dynamics 365 FNO. And now I think they are going with a different name. I think that's called supply chain. And they have sort of segmented this product into the project operations versus the supply chain operations. But for the most part, it's a very similar product, as well as if you are going to have both of these processes, then you are probably going to need both of those that you can easily install. But again, they both are going to have different pricing and licensing, so you need to keep that in mind. Overall, from the capabilities perspective as well as from the alignment perspective, Microsoft Dynamics 365 FNO has very similar alignment as your Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. It's just that Microsoft Dynamics is going to be far bigger product. It is installed in the upper mid-market as well as the enterprise spaces. Some strengths to keep in mind is operationally, it is one of the richest cloud product that we have in the market, and it is going to be very similar to your SAP S/4HANA or Oracle Cloud ERP. So that's a huge plus for FNO. Now, the architecture is very cloud native, so that's a huge plus from the technology perspective, as well as it also has the common data model with several other products in their suite, as well as the whole database level integration. And there are many things that are happening in the Microsoft portfolio from the Azure, from the AI perspective. So those are going to be huge pluses, especially if you are going to build capabilities around the product. So that could be a huge plus for Microsoft. Now, some limitations to keep in mind is when you look at the processes of very public companies, sometimes the CFOs like the SAP or Oracle interfaces a lot more. Sometimes it could be because they are familiar with those products. The other times it's going to be just because they are designed or tailored for financial centric processes. Now, everybody has their own taste and preferences in terms of what they like in a product. For example, people who prefer Microsoft experience, they are probably going to like Microsoft products a lot more. So in this particular case, the financial traceability and order support, the way it is going to be built as part of your SAP and Oracle products, it might not be as deeply built as you may have seen in those products. So that's going to be one limitation with Microsoft Dynamics 365 FNO. And for very large workloads, it's not as proven as your SAP Oracle, even though they have very large logos, it's just not as proven. So that's going to be another negative for Microsoft Dynamics 365 FNO. And it might be overwhelming for very small organizations just because the product is very large. So that is another limitation to keep in mind. And that's number 3. Now, number 2 on our list is SAP S4 HANA. And SAP S4 HANA is a very similar product as your Microsoft Dynamics 365 FNO. In general, these products are taking slightly more platform-centric approach where they rely on their partner network for industry-specific capabilities. Now, each of these products are going to have their own sort of pros and cons in terms of which approach is going to be right fit for you. So you need to make that decision. Now, from the SAP S4 HANA perspective, it is really good for very large as well as the upper mid-market companies. They have a product for the mid-market as well, SAP Grow, that they are trying to position. So that could be a great fit for some of the mid-market companies as well. Now, the strengths to keep in mind from SAP S4 HANA perspective is that it is proven with very large workloads. So again, performance is probably not going to be a problem with SAP S4 HANA in general. Now, depending upon the implementation, how it is implemented, sometimes there could be challenges because of that. But as such, from the product perspective, it's very well developed product for very large enterprises. The other strength to keep in mind is the best of breed architecture for distributors that is going to be available directly from SAP. And now SAP has made several changes in the past. They are also aligning themselves very closely with Databricks as well. So now they had a lot of different products to enable their data warehouse capabilities, but now Databricks is going to be part of their layer as well. So AI-centric capabilities are going to be far more in the SAP portfolio as well. So that is another thing to keep in mind. If you care for that, that could be a huge plus for SAP S4HANA now. And then you have the financial traceability as well as the control. That is one of the best with SAP products in general. And SAP S4HANA is going to be one of the best there. Limitations to keep in mind is they have the weak operational capabilities for the cloud compared to the other products that we have on this list, the industry specific capabilities, last mile capabilities. You have to either acquire them from the third party vendors, partners, their resellers, or you need to configure them. Sometimes that could be very expensive process. So again, you need to make a decision whether you are looking for slightly more agile product, platform centric product where you can accommodate many different business model transactions, limited pre-baked integration, as well as this is probably going to be overwhelming for a smaller organization. So that's number 2. Number 1 on our list is NetSuite. And NetSuite is ideal for global distributors. And it's a very comparable product as your Acumatica or it's going to be your Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. It targets SME-centric companies. And for the most part, the way the product is designed, it's going to have far deeper financial capabilities, the ERP capabilities, localization for many different countries provided natively by NetSuite, than the operational capabilities. So the strengths to keep in mind is NetSuite is aiming to accommodate a lot more business model and processes as part of the product as well. They have done many changes. For example, they have recently acquired some capabilities from the field services perspective. So now they are catching up to Acumatica in those operational capabilities as well. But it was always financially rich. So for the most part, it is going to be good for companies that are going to be slightly more diverse in their business model when they need to accommodate a lot more business model, when they expect that in tomorrow maybe they are going to outgrow some of the business model that they have and they need to accommodate new processes quickly. In those cases, naturally, it could be a great fit. And that's why this works really well in private equity centric structures where they are trying to roll out the same product across their entities because they need to do knowledge sharing, etc. Or they might need to do quick shuffling, quick spin off, quick merging when they need to do that. In those cases, naturally, it is a great product. They also have global capabilities as well as ecosystem. Now, some of the limitations to keep in mind is when you look at the industrial capabilities, the B2B capabilities, they might not be as rich compared to some of the other industrial products that we have on this list. And then limited capabilities for diverse distributors, even though they are catching up in the diversity for those distributors, but they just don't have as deep operational capabilities as of today. So that's where you will require a lot more add-ons, maybe a lot more consulting effort to be able to enable that, and not necessarily designed for larger companies. So it's still a very SMB product. So those are some of the limitations. And that's it for this video. If you enjoyed this video, we are going to include the link for a very detailed report that is going to have much more detail. So if you want to download that, you are going to have a link of that. We also publish these ranking quadrants as part of our digital transformation report. If you have not checked, you are going to find other products, other categories with that as well. So we are going to link that as well. We publish these videos on a weekly basis. So you might want to hit the subscribe button. And this podcast is also available in the audio form. So go there, check out, subscribe if you like. On that note, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.